problem with the teacher answering like, well, when a man loves a woman, sometimes they have a life together and they can
Yeah,
become
when two
romantic.
people love each other, X, Y, and Z, explain the whole situation. That's fine.
Uh,
But it's like when a
Well, that's
so
teacher
still bad.
why would it make you uncomfortable to
Welcome
add
to-
into their like into that proviso? It can be between a man and a woman, and it can be between a man and a man. Would that make you uncomfortable?
Or a woman and a woman.
make me uncomfortable?
Or
As a
would you be
parent,
uncomfortable with that
kid
being
in that
said in a
school?
classroom of third graders?
Yeah.
Why? If they said man and woman, would that make you uncomfortable?
I think they shouldn't be talking about that at all in third
I
grade.
asked the question whether or not
I'm proud of
a man
Naz
is.
for coming out as homophobic.
Hold on. But Pisco.
So I asked a question about whether or not, in the context of a question about what love is, a teacher said when a man and a woman, whatever, romantically involved, they might build a life together. If they said man and woman, that would upset you, wouldn't it?
Upset me.
Or would that make you uncomfortable in the same way as saying a man and a man?
Okay. My initial statement was about
Can you answer my question? And you can elaborate for sure, but
that's not going to make me uncomfortable.
so
It's like-
but the man and the man would, right?
Okay. If a student asked a teacher, what is love? And they explained it in whatever way, whatever genders they want to explain it. It's cool, like whatever. But like, when
Okay,
a
so then
teacher
this
trying to
that is
explain
being
to a
prescribed
student
by this bill.
what
wouldn't
their
it?
sexual orientation is for what they should be thinking of themselves when it
Okay,
comes to what their
but this
preferences are. I
bill
think
is
that's
prescribing what
inappropriate.
you
That's
just
a
said
line
you're
that we
comfortable.
shouldn't cross. As
The
teachers,
bill
adults,
is prescribing.
shouldn't be crossing that line with children.
The bill is
Especially kids
prescribing
in
what you
third
just
grade.
said you're comfortable with. You just said that you'd be comfortable with that conversation coming up in the context of any sex and any gender. That the bill
Talking
would
about what
prescribe that
love
conversation.
is different. Talking about what love is different than being transgender.
No, that would be a conversation about gender identity and sexuality, wouldn't it?
It would
It's
be
about
umbrella
sexual
term
orientation
under
and gender
there.
identity.
Your identity
Yeah,
and
it's considered under
sexuality.
that.
Yeah,
in the
why?
same
Yeah,
category as love.
you're talking about the nature in which a romantic relationship can rise between two men. That's about sexual orientation.
Hey, debate board, how about
Yeah.
you just say what you want to say instead of typing in the chat?
Debate boy will get a chance. He'll get a chance.
Yeah,
in
waiting
a
in
second.
line. Why don't you respect Prime's panel?
I would like an answer. I mean, you just said you were comfortable with the
Good
Good job,
conversation.
Dr. K.
So you're asking what I'm comfortable with versus not comfortable with, right?
Well,
You're
comfort in
asking
the
me
sense
if
of
I'm
like willing
comfortable
to
with
have that be
loving each
legal.
other? You're
So
asking me
that would be a prescribed conversation. In other words, a banned conversation. The Florida bill would say you're not allowed to have this conversation, or arguably would extend to cover this conversation, which you just said you're totally comfortable with. Why were you okay with a law that bans something that you think is appropriate?
I think it's a line that a teacher should not cross with their children.
But the law is much broader. The law is broader, and it includes things that you think should be okay to talk about, like explaining what
Now, as they get
romantic
older,
love is.
let's say you're in middle school or something, sure, like whatever, have that conversation, answer that
But
question.
You just said you were okay with it in the context of third graders. Are you saying that you're not comfortable with that conversation in the context of third graders, whether it's heterosexual or?
What are you trying to get me to say? Like,
So I want to find
keep asking
some.
the same question.
So it seemed like you had acknowledged that there might have been a legitimate classroom discussion with respect to romantic love for third graders, and that it was. You seem to acknowledge that there could be a legitimate discussion
There's
to
ways
have.
to address those questions that kids might ask without referring to sexual identity or orientation.
So you wouldn't want them to refer to. So let's be clear. So
refer to,
would you be
all these
okay if it was a
categories
heterosexual? But I asked you. That's why I'm asking, just to give you a playbook of like what's going on in my head. What am I trying to get you to say? So I'm giving you the case of the heterosexual relationship, which you very easily are able to dismiss. Say, no, I would be fine with a teacher saying man and woman in the context of that classroom discussion on romantic love. And I'm trying to get you to show you that what your discomfort is the gay aspect to it, not the sexual aspect to it, not the romantic aspect to it, because you're fine with that conversation in the context of a heterosexual relationship. But what's making you discomfort, what's giving you discomfort is the homosexual nature or the non-traditional nature of the relationship being discussed. That's what I'm trying to do with my questioning.
Gotcha.
And I'm still not clear.
You're trying to get me to say that I'm uncomfortable with gay people or something?
Well,
I have zero problem with gay people.
I understand that, but I'm trying to reveal what is your problem with the classroom discussion?
Why don't we have Naz tell us what his
shouldn't
point of
be
view
crossed.
is
A line
instead
that
of
shouldn't
jumping
be
at
crossed
shadows?
is when a student who's in K through third grade is having a conversation with their teacher and they start to talk about their personal gender identities or whatever their potential
But it's
gender might
broader than
be as
that,
they
right? So
grow
I'm giving you a conversation that's more. You're talking about conversations that, okay, maybe those conversations will be inappropriate. I'm trying to give you an example
They
that's harder
wouldn't.
for you, not easier for you. So the example I'm giving you that the law would cover, it's going to be a hard case for you, where it's like not explicitly talking about like gender organs or anything like that. It's talking about something like romantic love that you see on the street and a child asking a question about it. And so don't try to like generalize to make it easier for yourself. If you have the courage of your conviction, deal with the hard case. The hard case is someone is
Parents should
talking
be
about
able to
romantic
explain that to
love.
their kids. Parents should have that conversation with their kids.
But you're okay with a teacher, aren't you, talking about romantic love to third graders, right? Are you or are you not okay with that?
Can you describe what that means?
So talking about how
No.
men and how people, just people, not on gender, just people can fall in love if they have generally, right, physical attraction to each other and build a life together.
Compound, I see your hand. You don't have to
So-
hold up your hand. I do see it. Okay.
That's essentially the summary of whatever
Yeah.
discussion is going to be had about why people might get married if that question were to come up. Because guess what? Kids are precocious. They ask questions like that. And so the question is, if it were a totally agender conversation, you would be okay with it, wouldn't you, Nasty?
Yeah. But
Okay.
getting into like other sexual orientations or possible preferences, right? Especially when it comes to like the trans realm, I think that's inappropriate for that teacher to go there.
So if the conversation
And
I just
what
mentioned
if
that
I
you were
am
okay
trans
with,
and my students ask?
if the conversation you just said you were okay with included in it a reference to man and woman, do you think that that conversation should be banned as well?
Yeah, sure. They can't be talking about
Oh.
men and women getting together and having sex to their students.
Not sex, not sex. I mean, don't try to change the nature of the hypothetical I just presented to make it easier for yourself. The harder one is they're not talking about sex. They're talking about romantic love in the way that I expressed, and they're doing so now in the
They
context
said two
between
men or
a
two
hetero.
women can get
so-
together and love each other.
So would you
That
be
what you're
okay
asking?
if
Is that
you know
okay?
if the class were watching some Romeo and Juliet play and they're talking about this man who loves this woman? Would you be okay with that?
Yeah.
If there was a Romeo and Juliet play that was between, a new take on it, man and man, would you be okay with that?
Guys, what are we proving right now?
Romeo and Jules. Go ahead.
Like all these questions, like can we just like
Wait,
I don't know
can
what
you answer it though?
Answer
Why?
the
I've been
question.
answering it. I've been answering it.
So the Romeo and Jules.
No, wait, hold up.
So,
Why are you asking these
wait,
wait,
questions?
hold on, let him
Wait,
answer.
wait, wait,
He
already
knows
said
what a
why he's
romantic
answering the
relationship
question.
is. You can explain to a kid what a romantic relationship is without going into sexual orientation.
So I'm
You're
asking
the
you,
only one making it about sex.
Romeo and Jules. Are you okay with teaching that take on Romeo and Juliet in the classroom?
No,
Two
'cause
men.
it's not Romeo and Juliet. It's simple.
Why would you be
What you're
teaching
doing
it
is
to that age?
badgering this young
He's not
man
answering.
into copying to some nonsense you want to attribute.
I want to hear his answer.
He won't answer.
So okay, there's no badgering
answered
going
multiple of your
on
questions.
here,
Yes, there
right?
is,
This is.
Prime.
I feel like there is.
Hold on. Oh, hey, shut up! I'm talking. Thanks. So like we're trying to get down to like your base beliefs, right? Understand exactly what the problem is, because a lot of people are uncomfortable with this bill for different reasons, right? And they can hide behind things like, oh well, parent choice, right? But actually, you dig into this, and we're establishing this, right? That it's not just because of teaching sexuality is wrong, right? It's more like teaching certain sexuality, right? So look, let's try this.
So you're okay with conversations about romantic relationships. You're okay with Romeo and Juliet, which of course is a love story between a man and a woman, or a boy and a girl. And I'm asking you now let's finish the loop here.
Okay, now
Are
is
you
that
okay
Romeo
with
and Juliet? Is it a PG version of Romeo and Juliet?
And dumbed down.
It's the same level of. I'm never going to say it's a different level of sexually explicit content between the two examples. So it's going to be the
There
same.
is no explicit
That's
content in
So
Romeo and
okay, so
Juliet.
then my question
There's
is,
suicide in it.
so
Yeah.
would you in
That
this
doesn't matter.
in this kid-friendly version of Romeo and Juliet, you were okay with it? There's a kid-friendly version of gay Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Jules. You're okay with that being taught in schools, right?
See that being taught in schools, like why are we changing it?
No, my question is that's not my question. My question is, are you okay with that being
For
taught?
fun.
Okay, no, I'm not okay with that.
There
Why?
you go. All right.
Because it's not Romeo and
Thank you.
Juliet.
changed
Oh.
to
Oh.
What did he
modified
say?
version.
What did he say? I
It's,
can't
it's,
hear
it's,
him.
modified
it's not a
version of
question of
different narrative.
so I'm not going to let you get out that way. It's just another story that it's not based on it, so it's not a bastardization of a text. It's just an independent story that is a really good story for children. And so don't worry about the adaptation problem. There's no adaptation problem. It's a new story, not having to do with the old material that's being bastardized.
No, but it is because you're changing the sexes on
No,
purpose.
it doesn't.
Shut up.
That's
I
not-
want to hear him admit he's homophobic.
But like, what's the end goal of teaching?
To show you that what's
you're trying to
motivating you is
showcase that it's
prejudice
okay
against gay
to be
relationships.
homosexual?
It's not
I'm
the
not
inherent.
saying that- I'm
No,
not
so-
saying that that's.
Pisco,
This is-
Pisco,
this
can I
is-
say? Can
this
I
is
say?
what's gonna
in
show-
your
Wait in
example,
third grade,
in your
you can learn
example,
about-
Pisco is an inherent motivation.
No.
Of course,
Kids
my
can learn
question
about
my
these
question is meant to
relationships as they
elicit.
get older. These kids
No,
can
I
learn
mean,
about these things when they
in
get older.
changing from Romeo and Juliet to Romeo and Jules or whatever your example
Then we
was,
unearth a
you're
gay
inherently changing that
Shakespeare play
content
that no
to
one's
make
heard
it
of.
explicitly gay.
What we're doing, what I'm trying to do, guys, and it's clear to anyone who's following, is to isolate the variable where it's the same sexually explicit content as in there's none, right? It's just like a kiss maybe, and people falling in love. It's not like genitals. There's no like discussions about sexuality in the play or anything like that. It's, a shot for shot remake of whatever that is in such a way that you can't distinguish it, and we really just have a love story about a man and a woman and a love story about a man and a man. And are you okay with both being taught? And if your answer is, well, I don't want that kind of stuff being shown, and it's the same sexually explicit content, you can't have that answer for this hypo because they're the same. And then the only thing left that would be motivating the difference in outcome is, well, I think it's okay to teach heterosexual romantic relationships in third grade, and I don't think it's okay to teach homosexual relationships in third grade, and that is homophobia, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Do we have an answer to it? Oh, yes, he did answer.
Sorry.
Naz is a fucking coward.
Yeah. Look,
coward.
Yeah, if you're courageous, you just say, yeah,
You guys keep asking me the same freaking question and modifying it every time I answer.
And
the
you
question.
keep dodging.
I'm dodging.
I don't
Yes.
know.
You're not
You had a
giving the-
very easy
Romeo and
time answering
Juliet.
the question
Are
about
you
Romeo and
okay?
Juliet, but as soon as the
Would
question
I be
changed,
okay
so
with
the question suddenly became
be
very
right?
hard. And well, what about this? What about
Exactly.
this? Okay.
all right.
yeah.
So, well, sorry. We got. I think we've made your point here. I want to move on to Flo Trace has been waiting.
I
Also
was
kind.
next in line.
Oh my God! Please. Flo Trace has been waiting for literally forever. He hasn't said anything. So Flo Trace will go. If the debate board makes it back here in time, he will. Then we'll let in Compound and then a Wincoat.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say on the Pisco thing, obviously the purpose of questions is to elucidate someone's position. Sometimes we as humans are not eloquent and we need to ask questions to clarify things that is entirely defensible. The idea that, oh, he's badgering, like, he's a big boy, he can stand up for himself. And the reason why we're taking so long on these questions is because Naz, and that's what he always does, is going to play around the questions and change his answers to try and obscure what he actually believes. But we've already exhausted
And
this.
then
I
once
think
I
it's clear to anybody
clarify, you
actually
guys
paying
shouldn't ask the same
attention.
question. I'm
Yeah,
clarifying my position for you guys.
Yeah, no, you're doing the
clarifying
exact
my
opposite. But I think
position, you
I
guys
think it's
keep
clear to
asking
anyone
the
who's
same
watching
question.
how
Wait, hold on,
Naz
play
is
choice.
wriggling.
Flo Trace,
I think
please.
it's clear to anybody who's watching how Naz is wriggling around the questions. There was a different angle that I sort of wanted to go down on what Brento Bach had originally said that sort of gets to the core, I think, of Brento's problem. So, Brento, you seem to be very concerned. And if I'm mischaracterizing you, Brento, please just legitimately interrupt me. I don't care. I just want to have like a good conversation.
I'll let
It seemed to me that you had a very big problem with the idea of there being information about the child that the school knew and the parents didn't. And that seemed to be a really big contention. So I just wanted to explore that a little bit. So
Sure, that just seems like seems. Oh, if you want to go ahead and you.
Yeah.
what
I
you think my
just
take
want
is.
to get to the actual questions. Well, I just want to clarify that was your position. So I was going to ask you
Sure.
questions about something you didn't actually believe. So
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you think that it is okay for children to have sort of things that they are keeping from their parents, to have some level of privacy about things?
They can, ultimately, but like there's, like, I mean, imagine if there was like a drawer in a child's room, and they're like, no, you can't go in that drawer, and in that drawer they're keeping fucking like cocaine and a gun, and it's like, no, you're the parent, you go in the fucking drawer, like that's it, right?
Yeah,
you don't. So there are obviously limits.
Yeah, I 100% agree that there are some things that kids should not be keeping from their parents. But would you agree on that same thing that there are probably some things that the kids should be allowed to have private from their parents?
Right. If you don't like let your child have some sort of privacy or independence, you turn them into like a weirdo.
Okay, great. So then my question is, if we take one of those hypothetical things where we agree it's okay for the kid to have this private from their parents, Do you think then that the child should not be allowed to share that private thing with people other than their parents, including potentially school, like their teacher? Because I feel like that's where the problem. Because if you're already saying
child should not be able to share. The child should not share things with the school that they can't share with their parents, and there is no privilege like to information that the school possesses that the parent does not.
Well, yeah, I just want to clarify. I'm not talking about a privilege of the school. I'm talking about a privilege of the child, where we agree there are things that the child can have private. Do you not think the child should then be able to
keep fucking private, and that means that they need to make sure they don't take it to school.
Well, yeah. There's a big difference between taking it to school and publicly sharing it versus. Do you think that the things that the kid should be allowed to keep private, that the kid should have the ability to decide to share that with particular individuals? Obviously, if they share that with someone who then gossips, that's a separate issue. But do you think that then they should be allowed to share this private information as they see fit?
Can you rephrase that? Because I honestly.
No, no problem. So we agree that there are things that kids should be allowed to keep private from their parents. So my question then is, if you have a problem with a teacher ever knowing something that a parent doesn't, but you do think there should be things about the kid that the parent doesn't know, then it feels like the logical conclusion of that is that yes, kids can have things that are private from their parents, but they should never be allowed to tell those to their teachers. And that seems kind of weird.
They can tell them to their teachers, but there's nothing that then if the teacher tells the parent, the teacher has and if it's something that is I don't know, in as far as a concern about the student's well-being or health, then it is the teacher's responsibility to inform the parent.
I 100% agree with you there, but what if it was something more mundane that did not impact the kids? Like, let's say it's literally something like their favorite Pokemon, and they just don't want to tell their parents for some reason.
Sure, of course. Everyone understands that teachers and students have human relationships with each other, and you don't fucking send home dossiers on all things. Like your child had watermelon bubblegum today, and they had 3 sticks and they ate them at 3 o'clock. No, you don't send that shit. You just interact with things. It's only when you are concerned about their well-being in some regard.
Okay, well then, if that's the case, or sorry, go ahead, Pisco.
Yeah, what if you want to tell a parent, hey, your child was bullied today because everyone says that your child is gay, and the parents say back to the teacher, well, can you talk to the class and tell them that it's not okay to bully the kid for being gay? And they're like, no, we can't. That would be against the law.
I don't think that is against the law.
Why wouldn't
it's against this law?
It would be this one, yeah.
Definitely is.
I don't think there's any. I don't think no, because this law is not it's against the propaganda of the "Don't Say Gay" bill.
I can read you the
text.
It's
not against the actual law itself.
It is. The text right here.
The law says that you should not create curriculum. It specifically says curriculum.
It says classroom instruction. It says classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state.
Okay, think about it in this regard, and it's very simple. And it's the teachers cannot tell students, you would not get into maybe graphic sexual content, but if the students were making fun of another student and insulting them with graphic sexual insults oh, you suck dick or something like that, then the teacher can go, no, hey, stop it, cut it out, it's done.
No, what if everyone's bullying the kid and they're calling him gay?
Then the teacher will say, cut that shit out, it's done. They won't say that, but they'll say that.
But they're not allowed to say why?
Stop
they will say
him.
no. But it's the same reason, the same way it's the sexual graphic content.
This is you interpreting it.
It's not part.
No,
of,
if
no,
they
that's
say
that's the bill, dude.
Wait.
If they say to stop bullying that kid because they are gay, that is illegal under this law.
No, it is not. That's such bullshit.
Brento, has this case come before court yet? Has this case come before court yet?
Yeah, it came before court before the bill was signed. Pisco. It all came before court. It actually was already
the case study. The case study that I'm. The actual case or controversy that I'm proposing that would happen, presumably after the bill has been enacted, where a kid has been bullied for being gay, and a teacher has tested the limits of the law and had a discussion with their class about not calling him gay. Has that come up before a court and it's been decided as a matter of law?
Of course not, because the bill wasn't even signed into law yet. So what the fuck are you asking me stupid questions for?
The reason why it's a problem is the fact that we're having this conversation about how broad the scope is of the language of the bill. It shows you it's going to chill speech from educators, and
I feel your example is hysterical.
It's not hysterical.
It is hysterical.
You think a conversation with a frank conversation with kids about why they're bullying of a child for being gay is wrong? Wouldn't
you just say cut it out? Like if someone says like, "Hey, this girl's like a slut,"
Why?
and like fucks this person, you don't go.
No, but
here's why.
no, teacher, but he is gay. That's what you don't understand.
Say that. If you say it, you're done. You're gone.
You don't understand,
You
teacher.
gone.
He is gay. He is gay. You don't understand.
Now
Now what?
Go, I don't care. I don't give a shit. No, you don't say it like you don't say shit, but that just you say it doesn't matter.
Maybe
like,
this is a little bit more complicated,
fucking,
and maybe the language shouldn't have been as reckless as the Florida legislature decided it to be.
I don't think it was reckless because I think
shouldn't
it
have been
speaks specifically to curriculum, and I think you guys are pretending that
No,
it
I just
extends
read
to
you
this
the
concept
text.
that you can't discipline students.
He just read
It
you the
is
text
not
of it.
curriculum.
It doesn't.
It says
It's not just
classroom
curriculum.
Anything that a
Classroom
teacher
instruction.
says is curriculum.
Or anything that is not
like,
age
I feel
appropriate
like
or
I feel
developmentally
like
appropriate for
this is-
students in accordance with state standards.
Can I try to maybe
You're
build a
forgetting
bridge
the
here?
second part of that
Out
sentence.
Where's the line?
You guys are
Flow
imagining
trace,
that
go
they
go ahead.
cannot speak
Flow
to
trace,
the
go ahead.
students or something.
You had.
I was just gonna say,
Hmm?
Brento, do you think that it is? Do you think that reasonably teachers in Florida could look at this bill and wonder about the questions that and have the same sort of concerns that Pisco is having? That they could theoretically think, man, what am I allowed to say? Do you think that there could be legitimate questions of
point.
uncertainty?
I think
there?
they will.
Yes,
I
okay.
think there
point of
will be
this.
questions like that. That's true. Yeah.
okay.
The whole point of
so
this,
then-
that was the whole point of the Texas abortion law too. The point is not the actual metes and bounds of the law itself. It's how it's going to affect real people doing real things in the world. And
Yes.
those of you who are just looking at the four corners of the law to oh, this is all it's going to touch, you're fooling yourselves and you're fools to think that what the legislature is planning isn't much broader in scope. You have to look beyond the law.
You're saying
It
that, but
will have
your
a chilling
example
effect.
Your example is hysterical. That is a hysterical example.
It's not
That's not how it's gonna
hysterical.
work.
Okay,
It's
Brento,
totally
let's say it
wrong.
is hysterical.
You're saying it's hysterical. Why is it hysterical?
It's hysterical because, like I spoke to you about, if there's something that is outside of the bounds of classroom instruction, like I said, like explicit sexual content, and that's occurring within the classroom in a form of bullying, the teacher can always address it. Period. There are things
Not
that
if
are
it's about
outside of
gender
the scope
identity
of
or
orientation.
instruction, classroom
I'm telling you,
instruction, that can be addressed.
The
would
language
like-
as read is not a stretch to say that what I just described as a bullying conversation, that the law would extend to that. It is very broad language, isn't it?
I would like to test
I
my
don't
own
think so.
experience with this
You don't
because
think
I
it's
was bullied
broad?
as a kid,
I
and
do
they used to
not
call
think
me
it's that
names.
broad. Not as
like
broad
that.
as you were describing. Sorry.
Why wouldn't this?
Okay.
Why wouldn't if you're a teacher, why even play with this? Are you going to take a risk?
You wouldn't from grades kindergarten to third. That's the point.
Are you going to take a risk on a conversation about bullying with respect to a gay child?
Yes.
Just because
And
you
lose
think
your
it's
job.
and lose your
Yes.
job and
No, and you won't lose your job.
and you
No,
won't.
you will not.
What will happen?
You
to you?
will.
No,
How
you
is
will
the-
not. This
is
is
the law
this is what I'm
enforced?
saying.
If you
This is
break the
ridiculous. I don't
law,
think
what
these are
happens
Is the law
any
not
kind of a
enforceable?
standard.
How is the law enforced?
If bullying is occurring, you have a right to step in. If bullying is occurring just because kids are calling another kid gay, your hands are not tied. That's stupid.
Says who? Says who?
Yeah,
Says
where
who?
is that
You
in the
say.
bill?
Law. All right,
That's
please.
comfort
This
for
is
the
why
teachers.
it's
I'll
hysterical.
tell the teachers that Brento Box.
Please.
I'll tell the teachers that Brento Box says it's 100% clear and the law is
Sure,
clear.
yeah,
Go
right.
ahead with the
Okay,
conversation.
yeah.
As
Everyone-
well-
oh, please. Oh my God. This is
Brent-
ridiculous.
As well, Pisco, there's another bit too that's very interesting, is that parents do have the right to sue if they do believe that,
There you go.
the curriculum was done in a manner that was not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate.
Yeah,
in
there's
accordance
a
with
private
state
right of
standards.
action. Wait, there's a private right of action, right?
Yeah, it's at the very end of the
Okay, yeah.
bill.
So I'm really going to, as a teacher, I'm really going to take a chance here, and even on these really clear cases that
Notoriously
says
litigious
right.
America.
that
Oh,
Brento
hey,
says.
here's a question. Hey, Pisco, why don't they just teach whatever the fucking curriculum is?
Brento, I mean that's not responsive to what we're talking about.
Oh my
You know,
God,
you
you're so
can
fucking
generalize
ignorant,
out of the
man.
conversation as much as you want, and you can start having a conversation more broad where you're more comfortable. That's
I mean,
fine.
I could spend here all night battling your phantoms.
It's
wanna,
not a
not
phantom.
phantom.
Just-
more
You'd
ridiculous,
apologize for the
terrifying
devil,
situations.
man.
People, by the way, people in it's not a
You'd
people
invent a
get
new one
bullied
if I
all
did.
the time for being gay in school. In elementary school, there was a kid in my elementary school who had to leave schools because he had a lisp and he was effeminate because everyone called him gay. It happens all the time, and for you to
Yes, it
ignore
does.
it is I don't know
I'm
why
not
you're
ignoring it. I
Okay.
think it's covered. You are assuming that this is somehow beyond the
Brento,
scope of like
let's
a
say-
teacher's ability to address.
It
something
is.
ridiculous.
So I do want to let in someone else who's been waiting, right? So we got two other people. We got sorry, the guy, your name is Compound Fracture, and then Wincode.
You can call me Seafrack if you want. Actually, don't do that. Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Seafrack.
Should not have said that out loud. Okay, so I put up my hand quite a while ago, so I'm going to bring her back a bit and then back around if I can. I want to start by just saying two things that I hope we all agree with. Homophobia is pervasive in our society still. Transphobia is pervasive in our society still. These are fundamental truths that I think everyone here agrees with. I don't think there's exceptions here. But what does that mean? So kids, when they're that age, when they're very young, they are little machines that are trying to figure out who am I. That is like their main thing. Nobody is saying that kids fully understand what it means to be gay or should understand that. Nobody's saying that we should talk to kids about like penetrative sex or anything like that. That's a weird, scary thing that nobody's actually saying. What they're saying is that kids are trying to figure out who they are in the world, and they're looking at role models around them to provide leads in various directions as to who they may be and who they may not be. Sometimes that's like simple things like some kids have an uncle who's cool and likes metal music, and maybe they're starting to go, oh, that metal music is kind of, I'm digging it. I'm going to be a metalhead a little bit. But they're just starting to feel that way. But sometimes it's more important topics than that. Sometimes the uncle is a homophobe rather than a metalhead. Sometimes they go home and they watch TV and there's these gay characters on television now, which is wonderful. But they have a father who's sitting there going like, oh, look at that little F slur, you know, while they're watching TV. And maybe that kid who's trying to decide who they are in the world looks at that character on TV that their dad has just horribly made fun of and thinks, but I feel more like that kid than I do like the other guy my dad seems to like. Does that make me wrong? These are really basic things that 6-year-olds absolutely do think about. It doesn't have to be set, complex thoughts. Now, one of the influences on little kids of that age are teachers. They are perhaps second only to parents in terms of the way that they, not just that they can, and not just that they should, but they do influence children's sense of self. They always do. We can't help that. Kids spend too much time with their teachers for it to be anything else. So what we want from teachers is to be able to set a standard for that kid who maybe has a homophobic uncle, maybe has a transphobic mom even, maybe sees like these media figures and sees their family do nothing but like low-key put down all the gay characters. And they say, but those gay characters resemble me. Mom and dad are putting me down. So what we need to have is a counterbalance of a teacher figure and other figures within these children's lives who are able to reinforce that it is okay to be me, even if I am that me. And it also helps other kids by reinforcing that it is okay that that kid sitting next to me in the desk next to me resembles this character that my uncle puts down. And that is why it is so important. I mean, I'm a pretty straight cis guy, but it is so important that kids have these role models that teach them that it is okay to be the things that they're only starting to understand that they are. And when we try to make this about sexualizing children, it's like, no. It's about accepting children, and it's about children accepting themselves. And that is fundamentally important. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Okay. Windcoat is next. And then we'll go to Flow Trace. And I want to give Rento and Naz space to jump in, and then maybe Dustin.
Okay, for my piece, I'd like to maybe introduce myself better, because I am new to the panel and most people don't know who I am, and may have drawn the wrong conclusions about me based on the thought exercises I've been doing to try and redirect the conversation back to this issue. So I think we've reached a good place finally, but I am demisexual and demiromantic. When I was a kid in a private religious school, I was bullied. They called me names that would be specific to slurs, homophobic slurs. And it was really bad. Even back then, it wasn't addressed at all. So I don't think this bill would help it be addressed. It definitely isn't helping us. Anyone.
So were schools addressing this before and solving these issues that you're bringing up?
No, but they started to. After I left.
What issue?
Uncle.
Yeah, what issue exactly?
That whole scenario with the uncle being homophobic.
Yeah, it wasn't about, for me, it wasn't
were
about
being
the uncle. It was about the other children.
It was about all the influences that
So
children
other
pick
third
up from their
graders are going
surroundings.
around
All of them.
openly being
No, for me
homosexual.
it was 6th graders, but that's not too far off 3rd graders.
Sure, but the bill is referring to K through 3rd grade. So
No, keep.
No.
Do I have to
Can I-
reiterate
can I-
it? There's
hey, can I-
regulations that say it can reach over to other curriculum if it falls outside of what is the acceptable standards, and parents have the right to sue if they believe that those acceptable
Dr. K,
standards
can
have
I
been
speak?
violated.
I absolutely believe that starts younger than 4th grade. I
Wincott.
absolutely believe the process of finding oneself starts very young. It doesn't end young, but it starts.
It absolutely does. I agree with you. Wincott, please.
May I? Okay. So, yeah, I think that if the children were taught at a younger age what to accept in this school that was religious and had tenets that were against, or what I say, they'd be for homophobes. If they had addressed it earlier, if they had handled their stuff a little bit better, then perhaps I wouldn't have been bullied. That would have been great. I can see other children in the same situation as I am these days, and while the situation was looking brighter for a while in Florida, it's looking darker for some reason. And I think the reason is the party that introduced the bill, which would be Republicans. Hi, Governor Santos, if you're watching. You did a real nice job on this one, and I am being sarcastic. So, yeah, that's my opinion. That's the way I see it. I think if we were going to solve this, we'd just not have passed the bill. We shouldn't have passed the bill. No one should have passed the bill. Floridians shouldn't have passed the bill. It shouldn't go any farther than Florida.